Hello everybody, welcome back to the Artisan of Glimmith. 339 puzzles solved, about a third of the way through the over 1,000 puzzles available to us. Last time, I don't think we quite gold framed this guy. We need to do 5 more, but I think I've run my race on these for a while, so we can either go off in this direction, which was size separation, or we can come back all the way to here. And I think it's time for my brain to tackle these guys. So first time I was looking at these, my brain couldn't kind of get it into its head. But really, we have to remember that the outside edge does count as one of the 3 sides on this. So that will be this, and all shapes must be 3 sides. So it will be that. And then that will be this, and all shapes will be 3 sides, so it has to be that. That's not too bad. Hopefully, we can keep that kind of progress going. All regions must be this shape, so it's going to be that, because this can only have 1 edge. This needs 2 edges, but all regions must be this shape, so that's going to be that instead. Not too bad. When you can merge 2 cells immediately, you can merge 2 cells immediately wherever a Palisade clue shows them there is not a border between them. You can merge 2 cells immediately whenever a Palisade clue shows that there is not a border between them. So what are you suggesting to me here? This is showing a corner piece. Okay, so this has a corner piece, which already has these 2, so we know that and that must be true. Therefore, this needs a 3-sider. This needs a 2-sider, which means that's going to come out to here. This now has a 2-sider, so that can come to there and there. This has a 2-sider, and this is a 3-sider. Okay. I think I'm following along, just about. Precision, all regions must have an area of exactly 5, and Palisades. So this is a 3, but it could be that. I mean, that makes 2 regions of 5, so there's no reason to question that it wouldn't be that. This needs 1 line coming out of it. So that would have to be this. And this needs 2 lines coming out of it, which would have to be that. Okay. Following along, just about. Reminder, a single region can never touch both sides of a border. This means that dangling border ends are forbidden. Right, this has no borders, so it must do this. That means that's going to get that. That's going to get that. And this gets 1 end only, which would be this. You need 2. But you need 1. How do we do this? Reminder, a single region can never touch both sides of a border. This means that dangling border ends are forbidden. You don't have any borders, so you must come out to here. You have 2 borders, but it can't be this one and this one. You only have 1 border. How does... It can't be this. Right, I'm getting there. It's not so automatic for my head like others have been. Okay, so if this is a cup shape, then it could be this, so that doesn't get an automatic. This does, and this does. That means I think this is this. Is it just... Oh, no. That's going to go to here. Okay. I'm just waiting for when this gets really complicated. Any hidden in the brush? In the trees? Not at this stage, but I imagine we're going to solve this one and then a lot of stuff is going to open up. In these puzzles, you may find it very helpful to use edge drawing mode to mark borders you are absolutely sure of. So, that we're sure of, which means this must come out to here, which means I think that we're sure of. You only have one edge. You have two edges. You only have one side, so that's come down to there. Okay. I'm getting there slowly. And now, yes, there are a few back here, up towards this bridge. Are you the area we're in right now? And all of this? And all of this? Gosh, okay. Well, let's stay close to where we are right now. Let's start there, shall we? Precise 6. You have one line. Therefore, you must be that. No, you must be... Excuse me. You must be that. You have 3 lines. But it's thinking about... Stuff can't exist on both sides of a line. So it's probably that. Then here, we have one line, so that must be parallel. Lots of symmetry going on. That makes that. Okay. Sure. Precision 3. Okay, where does our logic begin here is the real question. 36 large. Well, let's think about this corner and this straight piece here. If this does this, we can't do that. So this would have to come down to here. Or be this as an area of 3. Which works. Can't do that because this is an area of 5. How do we make these two both have corners? Unsure. This might not necessarily be correct. Obviously, the check progress could tell me if it's correct, but I want to solve the puzzle as a whole, not solve this bit of the puzzle, then solve the next bit of the puzzle, and so on and so forth. This either has to be this or the vertical option. In fact, I don't think it can be this, because by the time we put an area of 3 in here, that no longer works. So I'm imagining this has to be this in some capacity. Hold on. Areas of exactly 3. Okay. It can't be this because one of them in a 3 would have to get a top or a tail. Therefore, I think a good starting point is that this and this must be true. Whether they go out all the way to the center or the edge, we don't know yet. But I don't think they can be 2 horizontal regions next to each other. Or 2, 1 long vertical region. I think is a definite point here. So that all tracks. That tracks. That also tracks. I just don't know how we do these 2 corners in any way. And I worry that all of this isn't going to work for these corners not being viable in any way that I've built it so far. Well, this could do this. How can I do 2 spaces next to each other that both only have 2 edges? I can't see any configuration of shapes that this works for when building areas of 3. I guess that works. And this go the other way. Nice. Are we still... Yeah, these are still those puzzles. That is different. Who do you belong to? You belong to this lot. Alright, but I'm not going to worry about that yet, because that's much more difficult. Let's come back down to this gathering here. Okay, polyominoes and palisades. Well, this is either going to be this or this. This is either going to be this or that. Definitely not this. These all exist as groups of parallel lines. But, okay. The twofer on the edge piece has to have this as one of them. So that's going to do that. That's going to do that. We don't care if this is longer than this. It could be. So we'll leave that there, but that's definitely just 3, which means this gets a line, that gets a second line. It means this could be this, which puts a line there and a line there, and that puts a line there. Which means that's 3, that's 3, that's 3, that's 2. That's a square. Ah, this square can't go here for you? Huh? That all breaks down there, doesn't it? So this parallel line must be here. I guess this doesn't have to be 3 long. I don't know why I assumed it could either be 3 or 4, but not 2. Because if it's 2, that means this can go here instead. Oh, no. No. It can't be here because that makes a cup. So that must come to there. That must come out to there. Except it doesn't have to. It could be this. That would be valid. With that. Except we can't then make this region be correct. So just because it's valid doesn't mean it's likely. But it's the only way I can see to make this reach up to either there or there and put a line here, which means that line must be there. Could this go all the way along there? Yes, it could. Intriguing. Okay, I see you, game. I see you. Shape bank. All regions must be this shape. Well, that means that exists. And that exists. Oh no, all regions. So even the stuff that's not the ones that incorporate this into the group. Simple. Precision 3. You get that. Which means this would have to be a cup, which gets that. Oh, no. No. Not that at all. It's another heart-shaped level. Of course, previously we got an achievement for solving a heart-shaped level. Right, this piece here has to either get this one or that one. If it's this one, this would have to get 3, and then that doesn't make the shape. So that is that shape. This has to be a tip. If the tip is here, then we cut off that and it can't be a region of 3. So that's the bucket end of that one. This needs to be part of a region of 3. But this can't be an elbow. They all need to be bucket tips. Once you realize that, it becomes very simple. I think hiding in the trees over here doesn't seem to be. Although I'm sure they could sneak in something. If they're going to put stuff like hidden in holes under mountains and stuff, like there's all this down here. The little doorway holes in the stones. That's very cute. But first of all, we have this giant pondish place. Palisades. You get a parallel line. So those must be true. Means this must be a different color than that because it's on the other side of a line. This I like. Can I do something similar here? Yes, we can. Oh, gosh. Shapes must be made by the borders of the cells. So, this already has 2 edges, so it's going to gain this, and this, and I think that has to be a square. Just by its rules. That is a shape all on its own. That's a nice one. That makes this open to there. That gets a second line, which opens that to there. Which needs a second line, which opens that to there. Which needs 2 lines. Can't be that one, because that makes the wall rule break. So it's going to go down to there. That's going to go do that, because this needs that wall and that wall. This needs 2 walls. And that needs 2 walls. Well, this can't go that way. So this is going to have to take those 2 walls and go this way. Then this needs 2 walls. We can't do that, so it has to take the one wall it has and another. This can't go back this way, so it has to take one wall it already has and another. This can't go that way, so it has to take one wall it already has and another. That works. Then this is a pair of ends. That's a pair of ends, that's a pair of ends. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. How did this break? Oh, I can have the open space to get that one and that one to there. Yeah, we did all this correct. It was just that little L that my brain hadn't gotten to yet, but using our tools provided the answer for us, and I'm grateful. Nothing hiding behind these pillars? No. All right, we're at 15 of 17 for just the basic window. Reasonable progress so far, I would say. 22 minutes. Oh boy. 2 regions. One for this, one for that. Put a line in between them. And all of the Palisade stuff must be true, but the size of stuff doesn't matter. So, this has to go vertically, because if it went horizontally, it would break this. So, this and that are all part of a region of one or another. Which means this here already has one line. Could not take that, because this region has to have a flower in it. So it's going to be that. And this is going to snake all the way out here. Nope. That's going to take this region, and this is going to snake all the way out, because we can't have both on the same side of this wall. So now all of this is going to get up to all of those eventually. Now this can't go to there, so this has to get there eventually in some manner or another. Whether it's like this or not is entirely unknown for now, but we'll get there. This has one line and it's an L, so it must take this, which means that must come down, which means this must come out. Which means that has to take those. Which means that has to take this, that has to go up there. We're getting to roughly rules that I was anticipating earlier. Is it just that? And that? Because once you realise that has to take this corner, but this has to have the other colour on the opposing side of it, it has to wrap all the way around. Right. You enter those. You have straight lines and come across. You already have a line, so you're going to need a second line somewhere. You don't have any lines yet. You need one line. You need one line. I think we can make that into a box. That into that. You've got a line, you need one more. No, I've lost it all. You must colour those. Which means that must be that way round. You don't have anything yet. This must be a different colour, because it can't be the same colour on both sides, so that can just have colour. I should, like, pick a colour and be like, this colour is the colour for things that I think are definitely solved. But not how it works. It's a difficulty one, so the solution shouldn't be too bad. This must come out longer. This needs a line either at the top or the bottom. How can I make these all have... Okay, that works. You've got two, so you must grow out like that. Except you need a second. But it can't be that. Oh, my brain does not gel with these as well. Alright, let's restart this. Because we know this has its two lines, it goes up and across. If this has that, this can't exist like this, so it must exist like that. Then this cannot be the same color as that. So this gets a different color. If this has two lines, that line must come across there. Which means this must reach out, because otherwise this would have three lines. So then how do we do all of these corners? You already have one, so you're either going to be this. That works. Then you've got one, you need one more. It could be this, or it could be that. How do we make like a square with two of you or something? Well, this must come across because we know we can't cap off the end of this. This can't take that. This can't take that because we can't double back on this color and we can't do that. So that must be a region. That's happy. We can't make a three-piece box out of all of this. So what can I do? I'm sure many of you have already immediately seen the solution and are shouting it at your television screens right now. This has to be this. We can find the new one, or this. Oh. Nope. Oh, there it was. Alright, that is 17 of our 29, but we will progress. We've only been here a half hour. which is what I used to do. All my puzzle videos would be kind of capped at a half hour, but the ones of you that are enjoying these videos, I'm sure are enjoying the longer videos, so why not keep up the momentum? Is this as simple as it seems? Oh, the ones at the edges define our orientation of stuff. So you have to have that, you have to have that, so it can't just all be straight lines. Is it just this? Nope. Stop jumping to conclusions. You get that. There it is. Not bad. Should we come up here to the left, this little villagey looking spot? Oh, this is probably a whole other mechanic. Have a window over here? Yeah, it's back there. Okay, so we're not even across this bridge yet. So we can peep the mechanic, mismatch. All regions must have different shapes. All regions. And they must all be exactly 4. That's going to be a hoot, but a little tease for another day. Oh my. Alright, well, we get some givens here, which is nice. This must go across there. That must go across there. That must go across there, and there, and there, there. Presumably, this has to get out, so that's going to be there. That's there. And it's the remainder that we don't know. It's just 2 regions. And those regions have to be kind of... I don't know if it's going to be like an inside region and an outside region, because the 2 regions... One of the regions can't be on both sides of the walls that we make. I don't like this immediately. Oh no, we're free to make other shapes, of course we are. So this is the other color. We have a nice rich red or something for this. This is coming out to here, which means those are straight. Coming out to there, which means those are straight. Coming out to here, which means those are straight. Is it this simple? That wasn't bad. Again, my judgment of what is a 1 difficulty puzzle versus a 3 difficulty puzzle and so on and so forth continues to sometimes baffle me. Right, my first immediate thought is that this tile can't be part of this because there's no way we can make this be a terminus for that shape. Therefore, if this has to be a terminus, it's going to be this one. That's going to do that for that shape. And then this can exist here. That's what I've got so far. That being that just makes sense. That is a fixed entity. That can go there, that can go there. Now, this looks less simple, doesn't it? I got through all of that thinking that it was all peachy keen. But now I don't know that I can make this rule work with this lot. So maybe I shouldn't have been so quick to make my assumptions. I do think this must be this. Because this needs 3 sides. It can't be that. There's just no way that this can be a part of this in the middle of its shape. So that would have to be that. This could be this, which is an option I hadn't really entertained at all a moment ago. It's just a question of how do we do 2 lines on this and make this cup shape? Well, it would have to be that, wouldn't it? If this is a 4, it would be that, but that can't be blocked in, so it's not that. So let's go back to just this piece. If this had this and this, that couldn't have a border there. So that must have that and that. And the only way to make that exist, I think, is this with this guy. Which means that has to be a domino. Which means that has to be a square. Which means that has to come out for there. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so a lot of this, I think, was getting towards being correct. It was just me not seeing the way to orient this and this together. Oh my. So these definitely don't have borders within them. And whatever's on one side of this has to have another side of this that's the same. Is it going to be just 2 zones? Because it doesn't say that it has to be. But like a lot of this stuff has to all be touching. And this has to be touching those. And that has to be touching those. And this has to be touching that. Which gives us at least a minimum viable matching shape for that. This is not this shape quite. Not quite this shape, but it's close. If that's 1 and 3, 6. This comes to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but they're not the same. Well, if I merge that with that, and that with that, that's 17, that's 18. Whoops. Now they're still not the same. But they must be quite close. Mustn't they? This is a 1, a 3, a 4. But that's going to have to pick that up. This is going to have to pick that up. That's now 23 and 23. Oh, but they're not symmetrical. They're both 23, but they're not quite symmetrical. This seems much longer than this does. So we've got a hook and a hook And 1, 2, 3 coming out of that, and 1, 2, 3 coming out of that. Then with if we call this 0 and this 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 off to the right. So then from 0, we can go left and up. We can go left and up. Then we can't go left and up again. So this is all too tall. God. My brain can't picture the overlap. Like this is 1 and a square, but then we go 1, 2 out, 1, 2 out, and this has this, whereas this has that, so it can't be that. These very large areas of overlap really beat me down. We draw that line in. How big are you? 18 and 18. They're not the same. I can't shift it to make it work in my head. It's too much transposition of the giant piece that my brain can't comprehend right now. I really wish I could just pick up giant slidey pieces. Some part of me wonders if down the line I'm just going to have to take some of that into like a photo editor and take a big shape and then flip and edit it in 50% transparency or something. Right, so all of that's together. That needs a corner, which gets that and that together. That needs a corner, which gets that and that together, that and that, that and that, which all brings that together. You can't have that, though. What? You must come down to there. You must have a corner. You must come across. Your parallel to that is parallel to that is parallel to that. Okay. That comes out to there. Good. Not just sunbeams, not puzzle beams. That's the one that my brain can't get through. So down here, the other side, 21 of 29. We got those. We got all of this still. Jeez. And even more once we get through the golden frame, or the silver frame unlocks the golden frame. That's parallel to that. All regions must be shaped 2 or 3. This can't be a shared region, because then they would have caps on. This can't be a shared region, because they would have caps. This can't be a 3. This can't be a 2. Therefore, what can we deduce from that? My brain had it for a second and then it flitted away. If it has to be a 2 or a 3 and it can't have a cap, then that has to be that, that has to be that. That has to be that. And then we just fill in the rest. Does that work? Yes. Good. Ooh, single sidelines is not one we've seen much of. All regions must have this shape, so that's going to come out of there for 4. And it must be this. Except that's not true, because how would we then make that shape in this gap? We couldn't. So instead we could do that, and that, and that. Then that leaves this guy unhappy, so it's probably that instead. Nice. They do look like little unimpressed faces, don't they? That's fun. So, you're a bucket. Just trying to look at the edges to see if there's somewhere that looks like a good in. Because if that were that, we could still do the rest of these. But when does it all come crumbling down is the question. Oh, it doesn't. Shimples. Squares or Zs? Well, this guy already has an edge, so he's going to have to be a Z. Because he can't be... Oh, no, he could be a square. He could be a square. But he has to get this one. Could go that way, except it couldn't, because that would put this on already having a square. Close, but not quite. That's what I get for guessing, as we've learned many times before. So, this must take that and that. Let's do it this way. This must take that and that. This must take that and that. Because they are chevrons already backed into corners. Which means this effectively becomes a chevron backed into a corner, which must take those. And that must take either those or the opposite. Could be true. So, because we could build it on that side or this side as a square. That could be a square, but this needs one extra piece. This can't be a square, because that tile then never gets filled in. Because this can't go up to 5, that can't go down to 5. So I think that must be true. Which means that must do this. Which means That can't make a box on that end. So that must be true, that must be true. That must be true. You can't be a box for a Z or a cap, so it can't be this. Nice. Filling in the stuff we are certain of. Forever something I should be doing more of early into the lifespan of a puzzle. All regions must be this shape. That's how we make a corner on there. That must be parallel to that, which means it can't be this. It can't be that. And it can't be that. So it must be that. This must be a cap, but it can't be a cap that way because that becomes too long. So it's either going to be that way, which leaves 8 on the opposing side, but we can't make that 8 out of the same shapes. So that's that way. Then that way, that way, that way, that way, and that way. Good. How are we doing on our counts? 3 more. We can probably get 3 more with relative ease. Relative. All regions must be one of these shapes. So this guy can't do that. Can't do that. So it must be this. That can do that of... No, it can't do that or that. So this has one. It must be parallel. Could do. No, it can't do that either. So it must be that. Right? And then that means this must be this, and the rest is just going to be coloring. How do we divide this into regions that are happy with the count, though? That way. Right, there's a 4 over there. 4, 3, 4. The 3. All regions must be one of these shapes. Sure thing. Bosh. 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 Bish bash bosh. Having a laugh in Prague. Having some cider. Drink. No. Bish bash bosh. Having a laugh in Prague. Having some banter. We drink beer, not Fanta. There you go. I just don't drink beer, I drink cider, so my brain got stuck on the lyrics. What are we doing here? This has to be a corner, so it has to be that or that, but not both. Therefore, this has to either be this or this, one of the two, which means that must be true. Similar story for this. Which means I think it has to be that because we have to make sure we fill in the gap that we make otherwise. This has to be this or this. It can't be that. It could be this and that. Except it can't be this and that. Oh no, it could be that. It could be those. That's going to be a straight 3 then. That's a straight 3. That's a straight 3. That's a straight 3. That's a straight 3, straight 3, straight 3. No. No. There you go. It was close. It was pretty close. What are you doing down there? You're the 4. 3. This doesn't look bad. You open up into those by definition. All regions must have precisely 4, so we can put a box around that. That makes you that if we're going to get those, although it could be that otherwise. But this has to have that line on it, So how do I do just a two-liner here? It's a great question. Like that. And we unlock even more puzzles. 29, 48 to go gold is another 19. That's so many. There's so many. Right, well, we're coming up on an hour for this. So perhaps we do like one or two more, and then we'll come back for really tricky stuff later. Oh boy. Right, you get a line, you get a line, you get a line. We know this much to be true. This guy needs a chevron. So if that must come out to this, then that must come down to there. Which means that must come out to here, which means that's going to there, which that's coming across, that's coming to there, that's coming across, that's coming to there, that's coming down. Then we're free to do what we will thereafter. But that also means this is coming across to here, that's going down, which means that's coming across to there, that's going down. That has to be a different color to that. Give me a nice yellow for that one. These cannot share the same color, that cannot share the same color. Which means that's coming down, that's coming down, that's coming down. That can't go across, that can't go across, so those are both coming down. Actually, no. That can go across. But we don't know that it does, but that one can't because it already has color up there. And that is the top half of the puzzle done. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. Shouldn't be too bad. Says. Alright, well, let's keep working with what we know, because these remain true for as much depth as these have right now. When are they going to be able to make a turn? So, this yellow could turn out to the right now, because that could be belonging to you. But that means that must still come down. That must come down. That must come down. Which means that must come down. Is this really how this is working out right now? I feel like somewhere I must have made a fundamental flaw in my judgment, but no. I think this is sound. So you pick up a blue. You need red. I wish I could, like, push a button while looking at a symbol. Like, let's say I push A, because I don't think A is assigned to anything. If I could push A here, it would show me a little pop-up of all the different colors that are available for the gems in the region, and highlight which ones are currently within the region that I have. Like, it's good to see it at a glance, but when it gets more complicated, just being able to go, okay, who do you actually belong to? Who do you still need? But this means this is going to come out to red, which means this has to get out. This is not bad, provided we actually get to the solution from this as we go down this path. This does not seem like a difficult puzzle. It's just one there we're just kind of following along every step that it comes. So that's going to go blue, red, yellow, and presumably cut off. Is it going to be this simple? No, it's not. Because how is this blue? Oh wait, could we do... No, we can't have this be the same region as... Oh, you've got blue. You've got blue. How do we get this blue to a red and a yellow without it being this one? It'd be that. Then you pick up that one. And you pick up that guy and that one space. Yeah, that was a good one. It felt wrong coming out so deep for these guys, but not bad at all. Let's just peep this. I'm not going to do it right now, but sheesh, there's a lot going on in that. That's for the either the end of the zone or the victory lap. Some simple ones over here. You must be open. You must be open. Regions of exactly 4. Okay, well, bosh bosh. How do we do a region of exactly 4 where you guys have exactly 1 wall on you? Can't be a square. It's going to be back-to-back T's. And then that's a 4, that's a 4, that's a 4, that's a 4, and that's a 4. That's a simple one. Who are you down there? A 6. That's a lot of things that have to be caps in a world where shapes have to be exactly 4. Can't be that because those two end up next to each other. Well, this must come out to there. Let's start with that. You could be an L. You could be the wrong end of an L. You can't grow out into this space because this has to be an end as well. You can't grow up into that space, so I think that must be true. That gets 2 birds with 1 stone. But this is not working out up here. Actually, that could do that. And then we have more room to maneuver. Perhaps. There you go. It's not bad. Precision 5. Lots and lots of caps. Where's our start point, though? This guy, I think, must cap that way. Because there's no way... If we're going to be exactly 5, we can't enter the region of something else. So I think that must go out. And then one of the directions. Regions of 5. I'm just trying to think of what shapes with caps look like. That puts 4 up here, which is a shame because the plus sign is great for getting lots of ends at once. That makes that 7, which is no good to me. Well, you can't go up into that space or over into that space, because then we'd make a domino, and that's no good. So you either have to come across and down, or down and across. So that leaves a gap of 7, which is too big. But this 5 isn't bad. Could also be this 5. With big T energy. But that T leaves nowhere for this guy to make a 5 without breaking one of the other pieces it would have to cross. Can't see the in of the logic apart from a couple of these that can't be dominoes. Sorry, I had to attend a goose-related interruption. So, this, I believe, has to be that box. I think those must be true, and that must be true, because we can't have adjacent boxes being dead ends on a precision of 5. Now, if this comes down, it has to go all the way to there, because this can't have color on both sides of a wall. If it comes down, it's too small to take caps off of those guys, so I believe that must come out to the right. Then what? Thinking about what zone this corner belongs to. If this went up all the way, and this hooked round, that could be a 5, but then these two can't be both ends on a long piece. So... okay. Well, if this is true, that must be true. And if that is true, I don't think for the space that we have remaining up here, I can make both of these be dead ends. So it feels more and more like that must be true. And then I'm just seeing now... that doesn't look bad, but then can we make it so that all of these are still ends in a region that totals 5? I don't see how we could. We can't do that because this is too big. Can't see the definite logic. I'm happy with that. It's the rest that I'm really struggling with. How about these two? If they're both going to be ends... well, it could be that, or it could be that. That's going to have to be a different color than this. And one of them's going to have to get to the corner. Now, here's something I hadn't really thought about to this moment. This cell is the only cell that prevents the level from being symmetrical. So the right side and the left side are going to be considerably different. It's just how does this cell break the reflective symmetry? And how does any cell get up to here? Because we can't do that. This would be viable, but I don't see a way to make this work because that can't go. I don't see the out after this. Let's look at these two a second. They can't be the same region because this can't be a 4. That could be a 5. But after that, this can't be a 4. It just... I can't see it. I can't see the move. Right, let's look at the lines on this then. This can't be true. This can't be true. Can this be true? Technically, yes. But also, not really. I just don't see anything that must be true apart from this and this. That's breaking my brain. Like, what else do I definitely know? You either have to go up or across. But, like... that could still exist because it could go up if that goes out. So that doesn't help me. Where is the logic? This has to be a different color than this. That could go to there. Which means this has to be the same color as that. And we need to pick up a... if this is the same as this needs to pick up at least a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th. Well, we can't do that and have both of these be end caps. Therefore, I think that must be true then. So that's going up. Therefore, that's going up. Could this come across? No. Because we can't have 3 dead ends in a 4 large space. That's still technically viable. But then this can't be a dead end. So it's not that. How do we get these two to both be valid? And this guy as well? Because it feels like there's not enough real estate to make it work. I'm going to reiterate the point to myself back here again, just so that I'm very happy. If this comes down, this has to be part of a 1-2, and then these have to pick up a 5th piece somewhere, and no matter which 5th piece we try and pick up, it can't work. So that has to be the 5th piece. That has to come up. That is at least one step further into being what I believe to be correct. Now this can't be true because this block has to be part of something. This guy needs a 4th and a 5th. If it's those, we can't make this shape into a 5 in any way. So it would have to be this. Is that true? Because I then don't see how I can make these resolve correctly. I just don't think in this space I can do enough with these 2 needing horseshoes. But we already decided. Okay, well, is it ever that? Is it ever that? Hold on. How did I not rule this out sooner? Can't make a T because these don't make 5s. Or cross, rather. That's only 4, not 5. It's closer. I don't know why I thought you were a corner for a second there. So you're 5, you're 5, you're 5. This is 15, and we need 4 terminuses out of 15 pieces. Oh, we got there. I don't know why I was so hung up on this going to the right for some reason. All right, at an hour and 20. I mean, there's this one at the end of the bridge. How bad does that look? That looks pretty bad. We will carry on with this group of puzzles and the Palisades next time. For now, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.